Marisa Tomei's unforgettable performance in My Cousin Vinny earned her an Academy Award, but her impact on the film extended far beyond her portrayal of Mona Lisa Vito. At first, studio executives weren't convinced she was the right choice for the spirited, Brooklyn-born girlfriend of an inexperienced lawyer, but director Jonathan Lynn saw something unique in Tomei and decided to take a chance on the relatively unknown actress. From casting doubts to surprises on set, Marisa Tomei's journey with this comedy classic came with plenty of unexpected turns. Could her contribution have been the secret ingredient to the film's enduring success? Stick around to find out. Released on March 13, 1992. My Cousin Vinny quickly became a beloved cult favorite. Directed by Jonathan Lynn and produced by Dale Launer and Paul Schiff, the film brought together an outstanding ensemble cast. Joe Pesci delivers a dynamic performance as the unforgettable Vinny Gambini, while Ralph Macchio and Mitchell Whitfield play Bill and Stan, two hapless college students caught in the wrong place at the wrong time. And of course, Marisa Tomei steals the spotlight as the razor-sharp Mona Lisa Vito, a role that deservedly earned her an Oscar. The late Fred Gwynne also shines in his final screen role as the no-nonsense Judge Chamberlain Haller, supported by strong performances from Lane Smith and Bruce McGill. Distributed by 20th Century Fox, the film follows Bill Gambini and Stan Rothenstein, two New Yorkers en route to California, whose cross-country road trip is derailed by a murder accusation after a stop at a rural Alabama convenience store. With limited options, their fate falls into the hands of Bill's cousin Vinny, a lawyer with no courtroom experience and a whole lot of street smarts. Vinny's bold Brooklyn demeanor clashes hilariously with the formal Southern courtroom, leading to a series of comedic missteps and cultural misunderstandings. Yet beyond the laughs, My Cousin Vinny offers a surprisingly accurate look at the American legal system, making it a favorite not just among moviegoers but also legal professionals. Casting Marisa Tomei as Mona Lisa wasn't a sure bet. At the time, she was better known for small roles, including a stint on a soap opera. Could she handle the fierce wit and humor the character required? Jonathan Lynn believed she could. He had seen her in the 1991 comedy Oscar, where she played a spirited maid and was struck by her charisma and timing. He envisioned a Mona Lisa who was quick-witted, confident, and could balance Vinny's chaos with grounded intelligence. Despite studio pushback, they preferred a more recognizable name, Lynn stood his ground. Any remaining doubts vanished the moment Tomei delivered the now iconic, "Oh yeah, you blend" line, laced with sarcasm and genuine concern. That single moment cemented her place in movie history. Mona Lisa wasn't just funny. She was loyal, clever, and had an unexpected depth of knowledge about cars, which played a crucial role in the film's climax. Tomei's performance earned rave reviews and secured her the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, launching her into stardom. Interestingly, the studio initially offered the role to Lorraine Bracco, famous for The Sopranos, but she declined. It's tempting to imagine how different Mona Lisa might have been, but would anyone else have matched Joe Pesci's energy so perfectly? Speaking of Pesci, he wasn't the studio's first choice either. They initially considered Andrew Dice Clay, the controversial comedian. Other names like Danny DeVito, Peter Falk, Robert De Niro, and Jim Belushi were also tossed around. But none brought the specific Italian-American charisma the role needed. In the end, Joe Pesci, coming off Lethal Weapon 2 and Goodfellas, was cast, bringing the perfect mix of grit, wit, and timing to Vinny Gambini. Did you know Ben Stiller and Will Smith were considered for the roles of Bill and Stan? But producers worried that audiences might not buy into the idea of a black and Jewish man being wrongfully accused in the rural South. Instead, Ralph Macchio and Mitchell Whitfield were chosen, delivering just the right amount of youthful anxiety and innocence. By opting for lesser-known actors and trusting Jonathan Lynn's vision, the team transformed a quirky legal comedy into a timeless classic. Think you know everything about My Cousin Vinny? Think again. The town of Beecham County, Alabama, where the story unfolds, doesn't actually exist. While the Southern charm feels authentic, the film was mostly shot in Georgia. The picturesque town of Monticello doubled as Beecham County, and you can still visit locations like Lucy's secondhand store, where Vinny and Mona Lisa inspect those crucial tire tracks. The impressive courthouse scenes were filmed at the Jasper County Superior Court in Monticello. Even the Sacco Suds convenience store, the site of the crime, still stands today and remains a fan-favorite filming location. And those tense jail scenes? They were filmed at the real-life Lee Arrendale Correctional Institute in Alto, Georgia. The production team went to great lengths to bring Vinny's world to life, even if that meant bending geography a bit. Did you know the outrageous courtroom comedy of My Cousin Vinny was actually sparked by a real-life moment? It all began in the 1970s when screenwriter Dale Launer struck up a casual conversation with a nervous young man awaiting his bar exam results. Curious, Launer asked what he'd do if he didn't pass. The man simply replied, he'd keep taking it until he did. That got Launer thinking, what's the record for most attempts at the bar exam before someone finally passed? The answer, 13 tries. That revelation sent his imagination soaring. What kind of lawyer would someone be after failing the bar exam a dozen times? And what if that lawyer was the only person standing between a wrongly accused man and a murder conviction? This unlikely scenario, an inexperienced lawyer thrust into a high-stakes murder trial in the Deep South, formed the foundation of My Cousin Vinny, a classic fish-out-of-water tale, with culture clashes, small-town hostility, and unfamiliar legal systems adding layer upon layer of conflict. But Launer didn't stop at creating an inept attorney. He introduced Mona Lisa Vito, a whip-smart, street-savvy mechanic who brought logic, flair, and crucial car knowledge to the legal chaos. She wasn't just comic relief, she was the voice of reason, and ultimately, the key to the case. 20th Century Fox quickly picked up the script. Wanting authenticity, Launer hit the road, traveling through the South to absorb the local flavor. Even the scene where Vinny's car gets stuck in the mud? That actually happened to Launer. He even met a real assistant district attorney who became the model for Jim Trotter, played by Lane Smith. Launer immersed himself in the legal world, learning that real courtroom battles often differ from law school teachings. Perfect for Vinny, a lawyer with grit but little formal finesse. It was this careful blend of research, humor, and unique storytelling that helped make My Cousin Vinny a standout legal comedy. Interestingly, Vinny Gambini himself wasn't inspired by a polished legal icon. Instead, he came from Joe Pesci's own upbringing in New Jersey. Pesci grew up surrounded by fast-talking, street-smart characters who could charm or argue their way through anything. He brought that same energy to Vinny, a man with confidence, quick wit, and raw determination, even if he lacked textbook know-how. Pesci's performance was so spot-on that some viewers actually thought he was a real lawyer. Now, for a shocker, the studio originally wanted to cut Mona Lisa Vito from the movie. Hard to believe, right? They were pushing for a tired trope, a nagging girlfriend scene to inject drama. But Launer refused to let Mona Lisa become a cliché. Instead, he flipped the script. He wrote a moment where Mona Lisa vents her frustration, not with whiny complaints, but with biting humor and sharp awareness. She challenges Vinny, exposing his flaws, but also affirming her own strength. The scene satisfied the studio's demand for conflict, but did it with intelligence and comedy, ensuring Mona Lisa's role remained pivotal. And that brings us to the now legendary biological clock scene. Believe it or not, it was almost left out. The studio again wanted a conventional confrontation. Launer's response? A scene filled with hilarious urgency and unexpected depth. Mona Lisa isn't just cracking wise, she's revealing her vulnerability, her desire for something more than courtroom drama. She wants a future, a family. Meanwhile, Vinny's stunned reaction is both absurd and pitch perfect. It's one of the funniest moments in the film, and it's packed with emotional resonance. This scene, brilliantly crafted, could have been a cringy misstep. Instead, it became a highlight, showing how smart, self-aware writing can subvert tropes and elevate characters. Ultimately, Lawner delivered what the studio wanted, but in his own way. And thank goodness he did. Without Mona Lisa Vito, My Cousin Vinny wouldn't be the beloved timeless classic it is today. Another layer of what might have been. De Niro as Vinny. Imagine this. Robert De Niro, the intense, brooding force behind Taxi Driver and Raging Bull, playing the loud-mouthed, out-of-his-league lawyer Vinny Gambini. Sounds wild, right? But that was Dale Lawner's original pick for the role. Lawner saw comedic potential in De Niro's gravitas, believing his dramatic chops could be turned on their head for laughs. Unfortunately, the studio didn't share his vision. In the early 90s, De Niro was hardly known for comedy. The idea of the man behind the chilling, "You talking to me?" monologue trying to crack jokes in an Alabama courtroom didn't sit well with execs. Despite Lawner's enthusiasm, the pitch fell flat. The execs simply couldn't picture De Niro making a comedy work. Ironically, De Niro would later crush it in comedies like Meet the Parents, proving he had the timing all along. So in hindsight, the studio may have missed out on a completely different, but potentially iconic, take on Vinny. Of course, Joe Pesci owned the role, turning Vinny into a comedy legend. But still, imagine De Niro's stone-cold glare, bewildered by Southern courtroom antics. It's a version of My Cousin Vinny that almost was. Road trip realism. Dale Lawner hits the South to make My Cousin Vinny ring true. Dale Lawner didn't just write about the South, he packed up, rented a car in New Orleans, and went to experience it for himself. He wasn't interested in Southern cliches. He wanted the grit, the charm, the unexpected. Along his journey through the Deep South, Lawner got stuck in the mud, a mishap that made it into the film, became obsessed with grits, and noted the eerie late-night hoots of owls, details that gave the script texture. Even the people he met made their way into the screenplay. The warm sheriffs, stern judges, and know-it-all locals became the basis for some of the movie's most memorable characters. With every oddball encounter and roadside detour, Lawner absorbed the unique flavor of the South, jotting down accents, mannerisms, and quirks that would bring Vinny's fish-out-of-water adventure to life. That legendary car testimony? Not quite accurate. Who can forget Mona Lisa Vito's courtroom takedown? Her expert car knowledge completely unravels the prosecution's case and becomes one of the movie's most unforgettable moments. But here's the kicker. It wasn't technically accurate. In her testimony, Mona Lisa claims only 2 cars in the 60s had both positive traction and independent rear suspension, one being the '63 Pontiac Tempest. That detail nails the coffin on the prosecution's argument. But, surprise, there was actually a third car, the 1964 Studebaker Avanti. Lawner learned this the hard way. His car-obsessed high school friend called him on opening night to point it out, but Lawner didn't sweat it. The plot still worked, the joke still landed, and the audience loved it. In the end, even his nitpicky friend had to admit the film was a hit. 2 Utes. A miscommunication for the ages. One of the funniest and most quoted moments in My Cousin Vinny comes down to a simple misunderstanding. Vinny refers to his clients as 2 Utes, and Judge Haller, baffled by the thick New Jersey accent, asks, "What's a Ute?" Here's the twist. It wasn't originally in the script. The bit was inspired by a real moment between director Jonathan Lynn and Joe Pesci. Lynn, being British, genuinely misheard Pesci say youths as Utes during pre-production. They realized it was comedy gold and wrote it into the film. What could have been just another throwaway line became a perfect encapsulation of the cultural clash at the heart of the movie. Vinny's fast-talking Brooklyn style meets the slow, deliberate Southern drawl, and comedy ensues. Why Vinny Took Six tries to pass the bar, and why we'll never know Vinny Gambini might be a courtroom genius by the movie's end, but let's not forget, the guy failed the bar exam 5 times before finally passing. In an earlier version of the script, there was a reason. Vinny was dyslexic. It would have added an extra layer to his character and helped explain his struggles. But that backstory got cut. Joe Pesci wasn't comfortable portraying a learning disability, and Launer didn't want Vinny to come off as less intelligent. Removing the explanation kept the focus on Vinny's resilience and street smarts, not his shortcomings. Instead, audiences are left to wonder, was he a terrible test taker? Did he party too hard in law school? Or was the system just not built for someone like him? That ambiguity only deepens Vinny's character and makes his eventual success all the more satisfying.